Hey everyone, it's Daniel, and this is 80. Thanks for listening to the Stand Down podcast. Everyone who listened to the first episode and gave really cool feedback and encouragement on Facebook and Reddit and Twitter. Much love. I got over 100 views, which is 10,000% more than usual. Appreciate that. But that's not why I'm doing this, of course. Anyway, enjoy today's interview with Timmi Lasley, one of the first comedians I met in Denver, and a big part of the scene still. Just keep in mind, in the background, she had this beautiful Zen fountain that might at some points just kind of sound like an old man trying to pee. I didn't intend it. It's just kind of what happened. And we're going to work on these things in the future. Thanks so much, everybody. Enjoy. Welcome, Timmi.
Oh, well, thank you.
Hey, thanks for being here.
Welcome to my room.
In your own room.
This used to be your room.
This used to be my room.
And then your girlfriend moved in.
OMG.
And I gave you the big bedroom.
She surrendered the master bedroom of the comedy condo. And this apartment's been through quite a few comedians.
It's true, and now I guess James is the only one that really does it
regularly.
with any sort of regularity. Oh.
Yes, indeed. There's some Denver comedy past here in this apartment, and I'm sure that will undoubtedly come up in our discussion today about the comedy world and what makes comedians not necessarily quit comedy, but just have to pause or just adjust their comedy pacing, or somewhere between the world of not doing comedy and doing comedy all the time, there's kind of doing comedy.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm in that area and have been.
We're exploring the depths of that.
You appropriately enough are as well.
Yeah, and it happened fast.
Did it?
I didn't even make a conscious decision. I just was like, this isn't making me happy right now. And so I did less and less and less of it.
It just snuck up on you. And
yeah.
And was it open mics first that suffered, or what? How did it? Because you still get booked. And she's still available to book, everybody.
Yeah, sure. And honestly, I prefer out of town gigs because there's a lot less pressure.
What?
I could
because
just
of what?
Go to a little town in the middle of Nebraska and do my 20 that I know works, and not have to worry about all of that. You asked what suffered first, and it was definitely the writing first. I hadn't really nothing was intriguing me, or sometimes I feel like I got really bogged down in the process of discerning for myself, because there are so many different styles out there, and there's so many different ways to do it. You can become kind of bogged down in all the different ways to do it and the different quote unquote rules, and you just all of a sudden you're oh well, I've heard somebody already talk about that, and so instead of just having this free for all of creative, here I'm doing this and I'm doing this and I'm doing this and I'm doing this, you judge it, or I judge it. One might judge, but definitely me. I judged it before it even left my mouth yet,
Sure, before you say
before
it,
I even put pen to paper,
multiple voices
I had
have already shot it down.
Yeah, totally. So it was this battle with my own insides, and I'm still I'm still bumping up against that. I've definitely, it's been probably about a year since I really started to step back.
Right.
Consciously.
So how long did you do stand-up?
About 9.5 years.
Okay. And then just for some context, I moved here 5 years ago and ended up moving into taking another comedian, Elliot Woolsey.
Have you lived in this apartment for 5 years?
I think just going on.
So I'm gotta be on 6.5.
Yeah. You lived here with Kristen Rand, right?
I took over Kristen Rand's spot when she moved to LA.
Sure.
And it was right as the lease changed over, and it was renewal time, so it worked out nicely. And
right, and we lived here with Megan Shahay, who I'm gonna get on this podcast eventually.
Oh yeah.
Because she's another fun and passionate person who no longer does comedy, and
she's a hilarious human being.
Yeah.
So funny.
Yeah, and it was funny to watch her go through her comedy infatuation phase where she like scrawled on the back
How long-
dumpster, comedy forever. No, it's
How
still
long-
out there. I see
How long
it. I love
did your comedy infatuation last?
a good few years.
Yeah.
And I too am like of the self-critical school, so I definitely wanted to absorb so much before I made a fool out of myself. Even though it's inevitable to make a fool out of yourself.
Right.
It's just what kind at one point for what
Yeah,
reason.
it's true.
But yeah, I absorbed for years podcasts and books and specials and all that kind of stuff.
Really?
And then I got to a certain point after maybe like 4+ years where I was like, okay, I need to slow down my consumption and ramp up my production.
Well, yeah, because at what
So I don't get
point do you like just
tainted or
exactly you start like
influenced.
mimicking other people as opposed to like coming up with your own expression?
Right.
of
I mean, that's how you have to start. They say,
I never did
is lightly. I mean, even if you're unconsciously mimicking the people you love,
yeah,
you're,
of course
you're adopting something to
I'm
lean on.
mimicking everyone at every moment of every day. I am the product of all that has come before me.
Will you ever be the you, right? And then you shave off what's not you, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that's like honestly like that's kind of why I've stepped back is like shaving off things that aren't me, and I don't mean like to the end of being a better comedian, but like to the end of being happier and more me. I mean, like that.
That was part of the process.
That-
You're like, I wrote a great joke, and now the next step, better than a joke, is to stop telling jokes to reach me.
It's true. It's kind of true, and I don't mind that, honestly. Like, what's interesting to me in this past year is how apparent it has become to me that other people have pinned this that me being a comedian is something that other people hang their hat on about me. Does that make sense?
Yes, that
like,
it's such an integral part of who you are
to
that
other
you're,
people.
My friend Timmy, who's a comedian.
Absolutely,
Like,
and it's funny because my best friend, she's a musician, and musicians are very similar to comics in a lot of ways because they're that performer and you do have to go out and you have to have an audience to really like feel like you're getting something out of it.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe that's a little bit different.
There's
with
a
music
lot of
'cause
amazing parallels
whatever.
between the two. There's so much in common.
But like musicians definitely have this like, ooh, who are you? Oh, you don't do what I do, so I don't have to listen to you or pay attention to you in a normal conversation that doesn't have anything to do with music. They just kind of are like, you're a non-entity.
You're not on my level.
Until someone until someone like trots out your credentials. And then they're like, oh, I guess I can like talk to you like a person now.
You gotta break through a certain barrier.
My very best friend in the world, like she does that for me. And she's like, oh, this is my best friend. She's a comedian. And like that, like
that's an instant
does
break.
it for people.
That's
and
an
they're
instant
like,
break when you're a musician.
Oh, okay, so you get it, and like we're on
Musicians
the
wanna be
level.
comics
I mean,
wanna
you're
be
different than me,
musicians.
but like also, okay, now we're seeing eye to eye. But it's
Right.
funny to me because all of the things that are true about me already, like the things that actually make me me and led me to becoming the person that would tell jokes on stage already, like those are already inherent in me, and like I don't need the label in order to have the esteem for myself. For other people, for the world at large, apparently you do. But for myself, I really don't. And
the label of being called a comedian when
hate-
you are a comedian?
well, the label of, I hated that when I was an actor too.
Okay.
Because my degree is in theater, and when people would meet me and they're like, oh, what do you do? And I'd say, oh, I act. Like, you would just see this glaze come down over their eyes.
Yeah.
And they just, like, they pigeon-toed you. They pinned you in the wall like a little bug. They're like,
Right.
oh, that's what this specimen is. And that's all the further they needed to dig into who you are as a person. They've already got, like, these locked and loaded things. And then you have to chisel away at that and, like, make space for yourself for, like, the reality of you in their worldview.
Right. Did you
And I
find
just
they
got
always
tired of that.
Did they find they always classified you into a certain niche? Like,
Oh.
she's a
She's
weird community theater actress who does like plays with blood everywhere, or like she
I
does,
have
she has a
done those.
weird, yeah.
No, usually it's just like the stereotypes of like being an ingenue, or like being flaky and dramatic.
Oh, like
or,
things about your personality.
Yeah,
right.
people would make these huge
not the kind of actor you are,
stereotypes.
but the kind of person you are.
Just blanket stereotypes.
Oh,
You must be extroverted. Oh, you must like talking in front of people.
Right.
Which, like, I do and I don't.
For
Like,
most stand-up comedians, that's a
wanna
very
know
mixed answer.
I want to know what I'm going to say. I want to know what the plan is. I want to know what the beats are. I want to know.
Right.
I mean, that's theater and comedy. Like, I want to know what the beats are. Like, it doesn't have to be word for word, as long as I get the idea across in the timing that it needs to happen.
Sure.
And, like...
Right.
But yeah, I just got so tired of, like, being defined by what I do.
Yeah. Here's the number one terrible thing most comedians can sympathize with. What do? You meet someone new. They find out you're a comedian. Oh, wow. Tell me a joke.
Fucking, come on. Who
right?
does that anymore? Like, haven't we all talked about that on podcasts enough that the
You'd
public
right?
at large knows not to do that?
We're
like,
not at 100% yet.
Ugh.
Even back then, I mean, like, what did you have a go-to answer back when you started? And
no, I never did.
yeah.
None of my jokes have ever really translated well.
I mean, right. First, there's getting to the point where you realize, like, stand-up doesn't translate to what people expect here. Yeah. How do I either engineer,
they want a street joke. What they want is a street joke.
Right.
Just tell them a joke your grandpa told you.
Yeah.
Like, leave it at that and be like, no, I didn't write it, but here's a joke. Here's a classic.
Sure. I mean, you already tell.
Hit 'em with the aristocrats.
Yes, read the room. That's good. I guess that makes sense because if they know enough about comedy, they won't ask that question. But if they don't know anything about comedy, they won't care that you gave them a recycled street joke.
Absolutely. That is very well said. It's totally true.
Yeah.
I don't know. When I have done dating apps in the past, I was quickly skewed away from even mentioning that I was a comedian.
Oh my god, it's every guy, tell me a joke, hottie.
No, really what it is them just like pumping you for information on how they can get started. That's really what it is. Like, what? They're like, well, if you can do it, then I can do it. It's this. I mean, it's the reason why we love men. Why the sacred masculine is so wonderful and beautiful is like, because they're just like, oh, I can do that. Right. Oh, fuck yeah, that? Oh, I've never done that in my life. I'm nailing it.
Right. Put zero thought into what it takes and just be the best. Yeah. Fuck.
But
And that's amazing that on an app where men are notorious for just thinking with their dicks, to actually put all that aside for a second and be like, you know what? I've reconsidered my career possibilities.
I have dreams as well. No, but honestly, like, I was always in drama and shit like that. Like I was a dramatic actress. Mm-hmm. I was never like a comedy person. You never. Rarely. I mean, I was great at it, but like people just didn't really see me in those roles. You know.
What did they see you as?
Drama.
The drama, like the fire, the drama roles.
Either
like
that or like
the wailing.
Either that or like the meek like best friend mousy like what? Or when I was cast in comedies, it was like the big character actress who's like the nutty person who just breezes through the scene doing weird shit and then breezes out. That was me.
Gotcha.
But I'm funny all on my own. I make a great straight man though. I really do. I'm good at that shit.
You know enough about comedy to play both sides.
Well, sometimes I honestly feel like I'm better at straight man because it takes a certain kind of personality to want to be the one to hit the punchline every time.
Right.
And I am not that person. Like
You don't need to be.
I don't need to be.
The Michael
I like
Jordan
to be
slam
now.
Dunk.
I love to be I will.
Sure.
I will take the ball and I will do the thing if like nobody else is doing the thing that I'm seeing needs to be done. But I'm really good at sitting back and setting people up.
Letting it happen,
setting people up.
Right.
And it's a little sad to me that I've never in my comedy career thus far found like a person that I really click with that like gets that that I don't feel like I have to like where I don't feel that the expectation is competition
Yes.
I don't like
just
that.
Pure, like,
ooh, that's another reason why I'm not doing comedy so much anymore.
That's a fantastic
I'm not a competitive person.
topic.
Sometimes like, I mean, I can be, but like my base
you're
level
opening all kinds of great
is just
worm
not,
cans here.
it isn't that.
Yeah. Yeah, we're talking, I mean, that's two totally awesome and valid discussions. One about comedy duos and the relationships that either foster or the lack thereof. And then also what you just said about right after that. What did you
Oh no, now I don't remember. We haven't even smoked our little joints yet.
Yes, yeah. That's a good time to remind clue in the listening audience at home that we're here surviving COVID America Week 2 right now.
This is
we're holed up.
We're rounding out our first week of not leaving the house at all.
Yeah, and
how's your quarantine going?
You know, I'm a natural kind of not a shut-in, not a hermit, but those things would apply. I can entertain myself endlessly alone in my room, which is something I grew up in and a lot of stand-up comics can relate to. So I'm kind of okay not going out. I'm great at it. And I'm getting a lot of projects done like this.
I'm kind of enjoying like not feeling the guilt.
The guilt
for not going
the
out.
FOMO is gone.
Well, what are all these comics doing?
Now that it's undeniable to talk about. Yeah, there's a lot of people experiencing what we naturally
I almost feel like,
through.
Now will be my chance to get back out there because everyone else will have had a break too, and I won't feel so awkward starting up again. Because that's really what it is. It's like
an equalizer.
Like I've been a little afraid to go out to open mics because I know that like what I need to do is just get my feet underneath me again. Mm-hmm. Tell the jokes that I have, work on some new ones, like do the thing. Just
not
get out
the
there,
wheel, but just get back to work.
Just get out there and get back to work. But it's hard because I know I am so rusty. Last time I was at Comedy Works, after my set, it was middle of the show or whatever still, and I go back to the bar and I get a beer and I'm chatting quietly with one of the other comics there. And he's not known for being the kindest of individuals. But like I said, yeah, I feel a little rusty or something like that. And he's like, yeah, you looked it too. And it wasn't a joke. And he meant every word of it. And I had felt good about where I was at. Uh-huh. You know, in the
you got back on
knowing
stage,
where I was, and it wasn't terrible, and I did all right. And it wasn't like amazing. Wasn't going to bring down the house, but that wasn't where my expectations were in the first place.
Completely.
And also, my expectations are rarely there, which makes it really hard to be a stand-up comic. If you can never, like, pump yourself up.
You got to be a little delusional to be like, I'm the best in the world.
It's true. It's true, and I don't have that. Was the other thing we were going to talk about. Competition.
Thank you.
Competition.
We got there, and just as a reminder, the whole point of getting around that was that we both have individual joints rolled by my wonderful girlfriend who also lives here.
Real good at it.
She took a master
She's shitting
class.
in my bathroom now.
And that's a slang term. You have to figure out what that means. We both have joints rolled by her, taught by our other roommate, James Pate, who may or may not be on the show. He's still a comedian, but he's definitely
still out there.
Yeah, he's out there all the time, but he'd be a good person to talk to about someone who's kind of experiencing the pluses and minuses in real time. Still going out there, but still every night coming home and weighing like, all right, this was good, this was bad, do I want to go out tomorrow? Kind of, which is something we all kind of get to. You said it snuck up on you. So to go back before we get into the competitive thing. So I've been living here around 5 years, and I met you a few years before at the High Plains Comedy Festival when I started visiting here. And you were doing all kinds of stuff. You're doing stand-up, you're doing sketch. I think I saw you at Hair Bar, or it was like
Beauty Bar.
Beauty Bar. It was
Hair
like
Bar.
The nail salon.
That's a totally different.
The nail salon / comedy venue / which isn't around.
It's
anymore.
an EDM club now.
Without hair.
I believe.
Doing. Okay.
No, it's totally different.
They should put hair cutting back in there. Could work well. But yeah, and you were dressed as an old prospector and a beard, and you're doing.
Oh, Cash McBride.
Yeah.
Cash McBride, Lady Doctor.
That's what it was. It was a whole Lady Doctor bit, which we need now more than ever. And and you're one of the cornerstones of the scene for sure. And since then, you've managed to maintain that status of being kind of an integral part of the scene without necessarily being ever present as some people are in
Well,
the scene.
a lot of that had to do with El Torito, of course, and Comedy Room. El Torito is a bar that started doing, for the listeners, I know you know, Daniel.
Before I could even ask the question, you answered it.
El Torito was a bar that closed down at the end of last year.
Beloved.
2018.
Beloved local
December
spot.
2018. And everything in this country has gone to shit since then. So that's pretty telling.
Dang.
Pretty telling.
That was event zero.
No, but it was a beloved bar by a lot of comedians, and they all came down and
No, they gave you a space, which I know you won't toot your own horn here, but they gave you a huge opportunity. He shifted the whole back room into a makeshift comedy club.
Well, that took time, and we did it piece by piece
over
by
years.
piece by piece, and I kept bugging him for this piece and that piece and that piece and whatever, and
you kicking and screaming dragged him into creating
No,
what was essentially
no,
a comedy
no.
club. We love you, Matt Oren.
He never kicked and screamed.
And
he just he
tried to run a business.
He always met me
Right.
wherever he could, and I appreciate the hell out of that man.
Yeah, Matt's the best.
And that business owner. For sure. But Comedy Room definitely, because here's what it was. It wasn't that I was an integral part of the scene so much that I was in a really, really wonderful position to be able to help people do what they wanted to do.
Almost like you were integral to a certain operation of the scene.
Yeah, but
Timmy's a big non-compliment taker, so just keep that in mind as we go through. But yeah, so you put on tons of shows in that room.
I helped people realize the dreams of their shows.
Exactly, he
and supported
facilitated
them
wonderful people.
in whatever way that
and they did all the
could.
work, and you were barely a part of it.
That's true. Then I
don't
wonder
deserve a
sometimes
thing.
why it took so much of my time for how little I was actually doing. But
There's
no, it was great.
a
I loved
legendary
doing
Thursday open mic that was the late night place to be to hang out for so many years. You ran a show called Epilogue Comedy at the Amazing Mutiny.
I was the very first show that they did there regularly.
And it was my first show in Denver that I got to do when I hopped on it. And so now you've scaled back, but you still run. You run 51st Jokes.
I wrote a play in there too. I actually wrote 2 plays in the last 10 years. I've helped write and produce 2 plays. And both of them very funny.
Yeah.
Very funny. So
how did that,
I can toot my own horn, Daniel.
You've proven me wrong.
I'm pretty good at it.
I tried to take the credit away, but you just scratched it away and earned it. That's interesting. How did playwriting factor into the comedy hustle, which you were very much seemingly all in?
Well, what is a play, especially a comedic play, but a loosely grouped bunch of jokes strung together with character arc.
Interesting.
That's all it was.
Right.
But no, that the first play we did came directly out of the sketch group. It was kind of like the capstone for everything that we did. And we just wrote scene by scene and kind of pieced it together, all the pieces that we had. And then the other one that I wrote
in college.
No, this was
sketch group.
This was with Mara and Kristen, Mara Wiles, Kristen Rand, Chela Negro, and Melanie Carnap. The last 2 are musicians in town, but that was with our Ladyface sketch group. And we wrote a friggin' play together. Pretty cool.
And put it on.
The second one was it was much more of a theater-y thing. It was with an improver, and we basically played these improv games to create the scenes that we then scripted and fit together in a really cool way.
Interesting. And so as someone who earlier said that you need to have your beats and scripts ahead of chance, there was enough meat there in advance that you didn't mind the improv aspect?
Right, and because of it started as improv and then became a script, and then because of how we actually put up the production and we were basically like taking an audience around this giant like ballroom that was set up like a gallery. So like they needed to like follow us around to different art pieces as we like basically did these bits at them. And like so it was a little different every time, and it was very avant-garde. It was so much fun. I was in like full like 17th century like French, like with the panniers and the
big fluffy everything.
Yeah, like the you know, the white faces with the mole and my tits up to my chin and the fans and the
Damn.
It was so much
corsets
fun.
and all that.
Yeah, it was so much fun. We had a blast. You know, honestly, like here's what it is. I don't feel like taking a step away from stand up is at all in any way taking away from the trajectory of myself as an artist and a performer, because every little bit that I've added in my career as a performer thus far has helped me do the next thing. So like, you know, I'm just like, I get into a situation, I get into an art form, I take what I need out of it, I learn so much, I grow as a person, I define myself a little more, I get my taste together and my aesthetic together a little bit more with every new craft, new opportunity, new thing that I learn. I just like put it all into the whole, and I cannot wait to see what I do next. And maybe it'll be stand-up, maybe it'll be something else. Maybe I'll write a book. Who fucking knows? Right. You know, like I just want to take every experience that I can and integrate it into the whole, as opposed to taking an experience and trying to make it the whole.
Yes. What a healthy outlook that is.
Oh, thank you.
That's very healthy, because I think, you know, a lot of people get sucked into this, especially in stand-up, that it's like, man, if I just start young, hit the ground, do all the stage time I can get, every mic, and then just keep doing that and I'll blow up. And it doesn't involve living life. It doesn't involve experiencing anything outside of stand-up.
What about the quality of life you're living?
It doesn't involve, let alone the
what
actual
about
life you're living.
Your spiritual growth? What about your relationships in your life? What about, like, are you having a good time along the path? Like, are you having a good time right now? If you're not having a good time doing it, then why are you fucking doing it?
Yeah. Yeah, like life experience of not being good at stand-up is not enough experience to talk about in stand-up. Like
that is 100% true.
You need something. It's to hear you. Interesting though. You said that you haven't really clicked with like a true kind of duo or writing partner kind of thing. Yet I've seen you collaborate with so many people, and I might have assumed that
nothing's really stuck. Like, you know, like nothing's ever been like super like yes, and like just like. Pistons firing, pow, 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 you know, like, none of that combustion, pow.
Comedy chemistry.
Yeah, and it's not that I haven't had chemistry with people in small amounts, absolutely. I love working with Mara Wiles. I love
right, because I would have assumed that she was, like, your, at least sometimes, while you're in the same city, comedy-ish partner.
If I'm being honest, like, I think she had to put up with a lot from me. Me working through my own like insecurities and bad habits and
did she get like, she started before you and you felt under her wing?
Maybe like she started like about a year before me, and she came from more of an improv background, so everything was kind of loosey goosey, like just go with it, roll with it. Don't judge it, just put it out there. Where I'm like more theater, where I'm like, yeah, but we can make this better. But okay, but let's do it 6 times before we even pick up the props, and then we'll be fine. You know, it's just like such a different, like more like pin all the corners down and then do the thing, as opposed to like do the things. The corners will get pinned down to if they need to be, and if not, then it doesn't matter. And I do believe that somewhere in between the two is like how like magic happens.
Right.
So yeah,
it's always a combo.
But usually. She's like a pillar of self-confidence in this world. She is like a beacon unto the darkness of self-doubt. She is amazing that way, and I really admire her.
Right, so So
I think working with me was work for her.
I mean, you never know what she picked up. You never know what she took from you.
It's true. It's totally true.
There's duos, and then there's just really close comedy friends that end up teaching us lessons, and we teach them lessons.
Of course. I mean, all of the people that I've ever worked with.
Yeah. I mean, I had a duo. I thought that was a real big part of my comedy life for a while that I thought was gonna go somewhere, and then it ended up not, and it was really devastating for a while to like envision a whole kind of future with someone, and then it just doesn't work out, or you realize that's just not going to happen, you know.
Well, isn't it just like any relationship? Like, you have to be able to, like, with a romantic
to bring
relationship,
something to the table, right?
You have to be able to be alone and be good at being with yourself. You have to like who you are when you're alone before you can ever expect to be in a relationship with someone else and have them enjoy you too. Like if you don't like you, then how could they like you?
Big time.
I like sketch a lot.
Sketch.
Yeah, I like the idea of doing it live, honestly. Like, I know that's not how our system of entertainment is really set up. It's not really for live things.
What do you mean, our system of entertainment?
Because to watch a live performance of anything, you have to be there at a certain time, and it's not like built around your schedule, and this is the time when it's happening, and you have to buy a ticket and show up and shut up and like pay attention and like all of that stuff. And like, that's just not the way our systems of entertainment are built right now. It's like on demand when I want it. Let me pause it. Let me rewind it. Let me like, it's just a totally different way of taking it in.
Right.
And I love, more than anything, regardless of what type of thing I'm doing, I love live. I love it happening in the moment. I love it happening right in front of me. Like if you ask me what type of music I like, what's my favorite type of music, that's really, really hard question to answer unless you allow me to say live. I don't know. Is there a jug band playing on the corner right now? That's my new favorite music.
That's
right
better
now.
than
It's happening
the
right
perfectly
now.
recorded music of other artists. Or like, because
I don't know. Sometimes
it's a great perspective to have in today's world now more than ever. Live entertainment.
I just want
has
it to
more
be
value.
Done in front of me. Let me watch you do it.
It's real. It's part.
Let me see it with all of the flaws, and let me, or you know, maybe let me be astonished and amazed and overwhelmed by how flawless it is done right in front of me. Like, that is huge. That is so cool and so amazing. And of course I love like big grand, you know, like productions, like concert productions. I love those too, but like
stuff recorded for posterity.
Sure,
and to
yeah,
be the perfect,
the pyrotechnics and this and that, whatever.
Sure.
But like, it's still happening live in front of my eyes. That's pretty cool.
Interesting.
So like sketch comedy. I feel like comedy, like stand-up comedy is one of the last holdouts of that, because like you can watch it on TV, and any fan of comedy, if you've even seen one live comedy show in your life, you know that watching it on TV is a total different experience than watching it live happening in front of you.
Sure.
And for that reason, I mean, that's part of the romanticism of stand-up comedy and why I was drawn to it so much. I mean, there's a few reasons why versus like theater, but like one of them is definitely like there is no substitute. There is no substitute for a person live in front of you telling you a joke.
And think about
putting together a whole package of jokes for you to enjoy. Like, there's no substitution
for you here
that.
Now. Because I mean, we've only had to even think about that for only a few hundred years. If you think about like how long we've been able to record performances or experiences.
Not even a few hundred.
Audio, barely.
Like,
into the 18s or whatever it is.
Yeah, a couple hundred. It's just...
And people would just assume like, all performances are great and tailored. And I mean, I wonder if people almost appreciated perfection in the way that like he sounded the same in Habsburg as he did in Amsterdam.
Sure, why not?
You know, for Beethoven's or something. But now more than ever, a real performance is special in a way that people might not necessarily understand, especially if you're new to entertainment, a younger person. A lot of people have still never been to a stand-up comedy show, but say that they're huge fans. And it's more ubiquitous than ever. Yeah. Whether you see it on YouTube for clips or full specials. Yeah, and of course, you know, going to see like a national
touring headliner, going to see, John Mulaney,
His brother does a great act.
He's great.
It's like a Chris Rock, Tony Rock thing. They're very good.
He's a Mulaney too.
Yeah.
Smashes a lot of fruit. Yeah, going to see John Mulaney is going to be a very different experience than going to see a local show with even maybe like a great headliner who also nationally tours but isn't like well known. Like, it's just gonna have a different feel. It's gonna be presented in a different way. And I'm not saying that one is better than the other, or one is like more precious to me than the other, but like, okay, maybe I am saying that. Like,
It's okay to have opinions.
Go see the people that you've never heard of before, that you don't know a thing
Right.
about. Roll the dice on comedians.
That's what I'm saying.
And if you hate
Right.
it, guaranteed either they're there for like 10 to 20 minutes, or they're the headliner and you're not missing anything by getting up and leaving. Like, if you hate it, you don't have to watch it. That's also a very nice thing about live shit. Just get up and go. Make your opinions heard by leaving.
Right. Yeah. Do you think the general population is becoming more or less educated as to comedy in general?
Oh, it doesn't matter.
Interesting.
I don't think it matters. Because here's the thing. You're not creating comedy for an educated audience or an uneducated audience. You're just creating comedy for the audience as they are. Like, there is this, like, zen-ness to comedy where you really do just have to embrace the situation as it lays in front of you, as opposed to trying to, like, change it in
Game
any way.
every
Well,
room.
I mean,
like,
I guess...
you got to read the room, but you can't overthink and be like, okay,
I guess you are,
everyone
like,
is...
subtly manipulating the room. But you're doing it subtly, and you're bringing them along with you so that they're in a different place than they ended up when you...
Right.
You leave them different.
It's not
than
the focus.
where you found
It's a
them.
secondary thing. Is to tailor it to the room. First is to say your truth and to say what's funny.
I don't know.
Right?
I don't know about that. I go back and forth with that.
Because that's what I'm getting from what you're saying. Is like you got to do you first and do what's funny, and then secondarily you look at the room and then tailor it accordingly.
Well,
I mean, it's certainly better than the reverse.
Let me say it differently.
Than if you tailored your act purely on what you thought the room was about.
Yeah, well, that's
in which case you
that's
could
exactly it.
wildly
it's like,
mess up.
You will not be funny if you aren't speaking from your place of truth. Right. Like, people will see the fakeness of it.
What do they think is funny?
They will notice the lack of authenticity. People have good noses for it because it's a survival skill. Like, does this person mean what they say? Right. That is a blanket, base level human survival skill. Are they sincere? Do they mean what they're saying?
Right. Which I think matters more than ever, and maybe didn't used to matter as much in comedy.
Oh, I wonder.
Back when people were more characters, maybe when it was less personal and a little more jokey. I don't know.
I do like personal comedy. I prefer it in a lot of ways. And I guess maybe that's part of why I knew I had to, like, take a step back. Is, like, I was out of things to say that I wanted to share. And I was out of things that I knew for sure about myself that I was able to share. Does that make sense? Like, there's so much about myself that I don't know, that I felt like everything that I was writing and everything, like, that I was saying wasn't ringing true to my own ear. And words are so powerful, and, like, you repeat something often enough and it becomes the truth to you. It becomes what you believe. It like has an effect on your psyche at some level. Like, words are a spell, like you say it over and over again, you will come to believe it. And so, like, when I see comics that base a lot of their act on their depression or this or that, even if it's true when they wrote the thing, it sucks when they have to, like, keep themselves in that place to continue to have that joke work for them and be true for them. And you just see them like full on stopping their own personal development and growth to, like, keep themselves in this place so this joke still rings true. Right. And I hate that for them. Wow. I get so mad for them. I get so sad for them.
It's like keeping a wound open instead of letting it heal. Just
tearing
it open again every night.
Absolutely. And you're never going to fix the problem by continuously pointing out what's wrong with the problem.
Wow.
Like
comedy inhibiting growth.
So
not just
I want
adding growth.
to, I want to, and it's really hard to write jokes about stuff that makes you happy. It's harder.
Yeah. There's no conflict. There's, no injustice. There's nothing funny about someone being like, hey, my life's great. Let me tell you how great it is.
I mean, wouldn't that be great if I could?
There's a way to get there.
Already I'm like, actually,
I could subvert it, and
it's like my life is great, and then you describe like a really piss poor sounding life, but like the person keeps finding the silver lining of it, like
right, exactly.
But at least my dog doesn't have fleas or whatever. I don't know.
Totally.
Yeah, it's harder to do that, and so
that almost ties into the like miserable artist argument. Like, do you have to suffer for art?
I don't want to suffer for anything.
When you become happy, does your art suffer?
Outside of maybe childbirth, I don't think that there's anything that I have put on my plate for the future that I would willingly suffer for.
You're no longer convinced that if a thing promises growth through suffering, that you can't reach it a different way.
Ooh, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, I like that. Like, here's the thing. Like, get up and grind at comedy, but like, are you having a good time? Or are you grinding your own self into dust? Like, are you the corn being milled, or are you the fucking grinding stone? Like, which one are you?
Either way,
and
you're corny, all right? Yeah.
Do you even know?
I think that's the heart of the podcast almost. It's like, am I humoring them, or are they humoring me? With my career here. Is the grind, and to play devil's advocate, the grind, how necessary? Because I'm not going to say it's unnecessary, and I think to a certain point you need to have a certain kind of grind, but grinding in itself has come to drudgery, pain, monotony. Doing any activity, you have to fail at it to get better at it. But when are people grinding purposelessly and grinding themselves to nothing when they need to be rebuilding or revitalizing or rewriting?
The axe is sharp right now.
Right. Chop some trees with it.
Chop it. Yeah, exactly. Go chop some trees. See if the design works. Does your axe work as a design element?
Yes.
Do you need to go back to the drawing board?
You put like a frilly handle on it. Is that helping your grip, or is it not helping the grip? Yeah.
I remember years and years ago, being at an open mic. The open mic had ended, and some folks were just standing around talking, and Ben Roy had just come from the club to come and do the open mic. And he said, you have to love the work of it. And it was in like a much larger context than just that, but like that little snippet has stuck with me. You have to love the work of it. Right. And I really do think that, like, if you're grinding just to grind, and it does feel like trudgery, it feels like it feels like work, it feels like rough, it feels unsatisfying,
diminishing.
Then what is the point? What's the point? Like, so you really do have to love the work of it. And if you can't love the work of it, maybe you should set it down for a minute. Like, I wasn't loving the work of it. I 3 or 4 years ago, I got an office job. I quit massage therapy full time, and I got an office job, and like that was just such a big shift and so draining in so many ways.
Right.
Like,
that's kind of echoes our last episode.
I really didn't
how what your day job is can really
it was so hard to go out
energy.
And be around people or do things, and like I just didn't have time to like ruminate. Like, that's what I really need. In order to write, what I've found is that I really need to just shove everything off my plate and just kind of ruminate. It's when I jam-pack my schedule so tightly with so many things, and I don't give my own brain enough room to breathe, that I stifle all creativity. Like, you think like, oh, I'll sit down and I'll write now, and then
decide to be creative at this moment.
And then, like, I'll go and I'll line up all these things, and I'll have all these shows, and I'll have all these things, and you forget to give yourself time to write, that actually works. Like for me, sitting down to write has never worked. Ever, ever, ever. I need space in my brain, time in my brain to not do anything. And then that's when like and then I don't even have to write. And then the
butterflies come out and you can catch them.
They just kind of like pop up out of the void that is my brain. They just pop up out of nowhere. Usually, honestly, some of my best bits have popped up mostly fully formed. And then it's like years and years of refining and like chiseling away and adding to and this and that. So you've got something really, really great. But like the basic ideas of most of my best bits have come fully formed up out of my brain.
It's not like you found a clue and you're like, oh, let me follow that. Oh, wait, follow that. That's hilarious. You find...
I'm like, that is hilarious.
You find the treasure right away and you work backwards.
And then a lot of times it's it's like an archaeology dig or something. It's like you stumble across a bone and then you're like...
A T-Rex head.
That is a bone. That is 100% a bone. I see that this is a bone. And then you start like digging at it. And then you realize that, oh, there's a lot of bones here. Like that is a bone fully formed and already ready to go.
Right.
But there's a lot more here that I can...
Before I can display this bone,
that only happens when I give myself the room and the time and the... Honestly, the nothingness. My life just got so busy that I wasn't giving myself the nothingness that I know personally that I need in order to create anything worthwhile.
Right. And
I think that's very different
that's a huge
than
point.
For a lot of people.
I think. Yeah?
I don't know.
I mean, do you think that just in some way that if everybody was a little less busy, that there would be some little fire in their life that they'd want to nurture, whether it's comedy or
hoping
sewing or...
that is something wonderful that comes out of this huge societal shift that we're going through right now.
Completely.
There are so many opportunities in this societal shift. Like to have so many people all at once have to slow down and have to take a breather and have to reprioritize.
Yeah.
I think that's not a bad thing.
There's a crazy amount of silver linings to this horribly deadly pandemic.
Terrified economically and
over 10,000 deaths at this point. For all you future listeners listening back to thinking how cute and not panicked we are about this, possibly.
Right. I mean, here's the thing: is like we are only going to get out this other side of this thing by restructuring our society. Like that's it. Like, we have to restructure. In order to be okay, and in order to make it out through the other side of this thing, we have to restructure. There's so many things in our society that just aren't working, and they were only there because it was the way that we've always done it.
And we could ignore it because there's always some new stuff happening, there's always a new thing, and now all the new stuff is stopped. And we just are left with all this old bullshit, and we're like, well, I guess I gotta sort through some of this bullshit now, because...
I mean, honestly, this is, like, amazing because it's, like, a complete metaphor of what I've done with myself for the last year regarding comedy. It's
how so?
Just because I have to, all comedy production, except for the most essential, has stopped. I have done some shows, I've done shows in the past year, but it's been, maybe 1 or 2 a month. And I haven't done a show since... Right now, in 2020, I did 50 First Jokes, which was great. And I had jokes, and I wrote them, and they were great.
Yeah, I think that's one of the big things that keeps you a comedy presence too in the scene too.
My once yearly show.
You keep up, but it's a big show to be in charge of.
It's a lot of work to put on.
Yeah.
But we've got it down to an art, a science.
And that's why some people think you have that gatekeeper aspect where you're holding them back in comedy.
I've never kept anyone back in comedy.
Except yourself. Right? Just like all of us.
Well, I mean, that is really the truth of it. It's like you are the only person that can keep you back in comedy. And when people talk about comedy gatekeepers, I just want to... my brain just goes back to, theater gatekeepers and how really... Okay, so theater, you get an audition, and you prepare for the audition, and you go and audition, and then you might get a callback. And then you might get another callback after that. And then you might get cast. And then you've got 2 months of rehearsals. And then finally, at the end of that whole long process, you get an audience. You get to be in front of an audience. There's so many more gates to get through. And such a process. And so many places where someone could be like, "Ooh, you're not what we're looking for."
So many checks.
Yeah.
Are these
so many
all these
checkpoints.
gates legitimate in your opinion?
Well, I mean,
Like, it makes a better product in theater?
Well, I mean, people have to audition because, like, there can only be one of this character unless you've also got an understudy. But, like, you know,
Sure.
like, one person gets the role, and that's the way it is. So,
Right.
like, you have to
You really
try
got to make sure
everybody.
to find the right person.
Right, and, like, you call them back because it isn't just about that person's skill level. It's about how they work with the other elements that you're trying to pull in.
How they fit into the big picture.
It's this dynamic thing. So, yeah, you've
Okay.
got to have all these checkpoints. I'm not railing against the checkpoints
Sure.
at all.
Just
like,
making a note. Yeah. But
but-
in comedy,
But in comedy, you put your name on a list, and then you get to do it. Period. The end.
it's
When
not
people talk about
the
gatekeepers,
gates. I mean, the gates in comedy are more like the people booking the independent shows, the people booking the club venues, and then if you manage to get higher than that, people in the agents and the theaters and all that kind of festivals and that. But I can see how,
But, like, there's
you
so
know,
many
to,
other-
to a new comedian, the entire scene can seem like gatekeepers because everyone has more clout than you at a certain point when you're new.
Oh my
And,
God! All those people with their apartment door closed,
they have their,
doors closed. They're gatekeepers.
they're
They're not letting me into their room. I
Comedy
should
can be
I should have
social.
access to every room in this building right now because I'm here now. That's
Do you think
ridiculous.
there's more entitlement in comedy than there is in theater because people have a more humble approach to theater than comedy? Or not?
It's certainly not because of humility.
Yeah, because you've met some actors who are like, I should be the lead and I just started.
No, it's just that you
Like,
think that. Of course you should.
I should be
think
headlining
that.
right away. Yeah.
Well, it's that denial we were talking about earlier. Like, it's that confidence level. You gotta have that confidence level.
The ego, the confidence. Yeah.
I mean, here's
Yeah,
what
yeah.
it is that at the end of the day, I feel two ways about everything that we're talking about. Like, I see both sides of it, and I feel two ways about it, and this is why I quit comedy. Because I'm like, yes, but no.
Right.
But
2
yes,
steps forward,
but
2 steps
no.
back, 2 steps in another direction. I can completely relate to
Just
that.
walking around in
the way
circles
that
here.
As soon as an idea leaves my mouth, I've already considered the counter idea, and I'm already getting ready to throw that out in countering my own idea.
Right.
Like,
and that people, it's hard to
that
take
can be a
somebody
hindrance.
seriously when they're discounting themselves before you even get a chance to. So yeah, what the fuck?
What the fuck?
What the fuck? I don't know.
Shall we?
Let's spark up these joints.
Let's spark up our
Clink.
clink. Spark up our containment approved individual joints. All the marijuana user enjoy. It helps the time go by and stimulate, but no passing and puffing. It's all Bogarden.
I don't know. I wonder if I'll go back to comedy, honestly.
That's one of my questions. Yeah. Because I mean, you're not technically away.
not, like,
you're in a gray area.
done.
That's
I
how.
know
That's
I'm
kind of
not
where I
done,
am.
done.
Because like I still
When people
all
ask
the
me to
time
do
want to go
shows,
back.
I
Yeah.
say yes,
Uh-huh.
and I go and do them.
Do people ask, "Hey, where you been?" Or are you doing anything?
Honestly,
or?
and here's kind of a bummer point for me, is I thought I had friends in comedy until I stopped going around comedy, and none of those people reached out to me, talked to me. I mean, I didn't. It goes both ways. I didn't reach out to them either.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like
But it's like
work friends almost.
Exactly. And I thought that some of these people were my friends, and now I realized that I had work friends and not friends.
They were colleagues.
And I was like, oh. And see, I feel like it would behoove a lot of younger comedians to not do it in like a weird, like mean way or in a way that like cuts you off from the actual like cool interactions you're having with people, but like to just know that that's part of what's happening, is that these are not your best friends, these are your colleagues. And I do feel like a lot of comics, I know it was definitely a portion of it for me, was like I needed a new social thing. I had just broken up with a guy that I had been with for almost 6 years. We lived together for 4 of those years. Like, we were pretty insular. And then when that ended, like, I had to do something with my time and had to be social somewhere. And, you know.
Comedy
like,
filled that hole?
Absolutely, it filled that hole.
Interesting. So are you saying that people should still embrace comedy relationships, but don't rely on them 100%?
Well, I'm just saying how it happened for me, I guess. And also part of it was that, like, I don't think that I necessarily, like, super duper clicked with a lot of people. Like we were saying about comedy duo stuff. Like, I haven't ever found anybody where I found amazing people that I love very much and who I appreciate, like, their being and existing and whatever. But, like, have I found somebody that I, like, super want to confide in and, like, share stuff outside of comedy and, like, really be, like, close friends with?
Right.
There are some people I would love to see if that's where it goes with, but, like, because of the nature of it,
it's a lot rarer.
It's just not how it happened for me, you know?
Interesting. Yeah, I feel like most people at least have 1 or 2 people that they kind of lean on, and you break through more than the comedy small talk, but at the same point,
I have there are 2 or 3 comics out there that I definitely have relationships with. And they're complex and they're interesting. And honestly, in some ways, I liken them more to, like, my sister. Like a sister. Where it's like, I know you. We don't always get along all the time, but I know you, and I appreciate you, and I'm there for you.
Right.
Whenever you need it. But, like, we don't have to be best friends, and we don't ever have to, like, pretend to like each other all the time.
You know, it's kind of like
it's a very honest relationship, which I
comrades in battle.
Yeah, totally.
It's like, you may not be best friends with the soldier next to you, but you have a connection with him that you have with no one else in normal society.
It means so much. It means so much. I'm so appreciative for the time that I've spent in comedy.
Yeah, how's it changed you? How do you feel, you know, had you not done comedy? What would you be doing, and how would you be a different person in this multiverse?
I honestly could not tell you what I would be doing if I hadn't been doing comedy. I guess theater, but even by then.
Because you were already in the arts, right?
Like, I didn't...
So you would have found another, if not comedy, then another similar of expressive art form.
Isn't that exactly the place I'm in right now? If not comedy, then it's always going to be something.
What next?
It's always going to be something.
But now it's going to be infused with comedy, no matter what it is, because you've
I understand the rules better. Like, I always, like, innately understood comedy. I was always a funny person.
Right.
But now I understand the tool of comedy more. I know how to wield it a little bit better. Certainly not perfectly, and there are people that do it better, but, like...
Goes without saying,
but I know how to wield it more.
Yeah. That's cool. You don't think... Do you think if you didn't do stand-up, you would have eventually found your way to it? Or would there have been something that might have scratched that itch that you never would have started? Like if you got into improv even, or if you got into, like, a barbershop quartettery.
That's a really good question.
Fuck yeah.
Because I don't know how to answer it.
Or that means it's a really bad question.
You know,
that could go either way.
I think that... I think I would have bounced off the walls a lot longer in this lifetime than I will now. Like, if I hadn't, I would have bounced off the walls a lot more.
If you hadn't found comedy, you wouldn't have found something as consistent or steady, you think?
Because what comedy has done for me, specifically in my own person, is it has really helped me to define my sense of self. Because there's almost nothing more personal to a person than what they find funny. And to really, like, explore that in yourself, be like, to get at the heart of, like, who you are through what you find funny, and funny enough to repeat, and funny enough to be like, well, they're not getting it yet. Let me tweak it.
Right.
Till you, because it's the process of defining something well enough for somebody else to understand it. It's a totally, because it's almost solely language-based thing until it isn't, till it's physical comedy, but
Right.
For me, it's a wordy thing for sure.
It works both ways. We got our audio and our video.
Yeah, it's true. But for me, I'm more of like a word-based sort of person in the first place. So like,
Right.
that's
Some
kinda how
some
I
comedians translate better to strictly audio than others. And you think you translate a little better because you're more
Ooh, maybe
wordplay
not
than
though, because
like,
it is about body
pretty expressive.
language.
I mean, there's a
It
lot
is
of
about body
expression.
language more than even what I'm saying sometimes. God,
No, but you
see,
have
now
complex
I don't know what I'm
ideas
talking
and
about.
things. But yeah, you can endlessly chase your own tail here.
I just well, I lost that thread. That's enough of this weed. Thanks, Nicole, for the joint.
Yeah, I'll put mine out for now.
No, I think that what comedy has done for me is to help me figure out who I am in a way that I don't want to say it was a shortcut, but
in my head I was like a fast pass.
Got
almost.
to the heart of it, and it did it
a direct
in
route
sometimes
rather than a roundabout
rougher
route.
way than because I didn't always have a good time of it. There was so. I mean,
you're exposing yourself to the kinds of criticism that most people never experience.
And because they don't want, like, that is why the fear of public speaking is so high, is because, like, you are opening yourselves up to
a fate worse than death.
You are opening up yourself to have to consider the perceptions of others about you. And that is so hard.
Jumping into other people's heads.
And it sometimes, like, isn't even useful to you. Because you're like, that person thinks I'm a dork or whatever. You're like, oh, and then it colors the way that you behave in the room.
And meanwhile, they just have indigestion.
Sure, right.
And you read their face wrong. Like,
maybe, but sometimes and you're like, that person has real disdain for me
like,
as a person.
The entire crowd has indigestion right now. It's not me.
Ooh, everybody's got bad gas tonight. Wow. Go to the bathroom, let it out.
Y'all
have
need
a
to
good
appreciate
time.
me more. Yeah.
No, but you really do have to care what other people think. And
interesting, because do you think there's a comedian that says you can't care what anyone thinks?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, they are perfectly both. Oh, it's like a spectrum, and you got both of those things on either end. But comedians are like the warp teleport point between one.
We can exist in any and all points.
It's like where the white in a yin yang, comes down and
the dot.
It's the white dot in the dark. It's like that point where it all like tumbles back. They are completely. They are where the ends meet each other. They are 100% confident, completely insecure. They are 100% involved in how they are perceived and what other people think of them. And yet they also have to not give a shit. Yes. They have to be completely aware and also not allow that to change the big picture of what they're doing and who they are and what they're expressing. That is mind-bogglingly difficult. That is a high wire act live in front of us. Oh my God, I love it. Why did I ever quit stand-up?
I know. I feel like this podcast is kind of just a road to me getting back into stand-up, but I don't know which way it's going to lead, and I'm happy to just walk it no matter where it's going.
I think self-exploration is what's so exciting about it. Like, who wouldn't love like a chance to really and a fun chance to plumb the depths of your imagination and who you are and what you believe, and then to play with all of that, to just set it on its head sometimes, and here's this thing that we all think about. Let's set it on its head and see, and then talk about what we see. Right. That's fun.
You know, the way you put that, it makes so much sense, because people love filling out little surveys. What's your favorite food? Who's your favorite actor? It's like that, but a couple steps further down the line.
Yeah, totally.
Who the fuck are you? What injustices are prevalent in your head? What would be creative ways to address those injustices? And how can you package them in a way that everyone can understand?
Man, fart sounds are funny. But what if they were like this? It's both of those things.
Quack, quack.
I love it. I love comedy that way. Like honestly, growing up, I never really appreciated fart jokes. I didn't think farts were that funny. And even now, sometimes I'm like, okay, guys, grow up, whatever.
Uh-huh.
But
a lesser form.
I have learned to appreciate the comedy art of farts.
I'm going to just take a silent but deadly moment of silence for that notion. That's you know what, the way you said.
Nice one,
Ooh,
Daniel.
Stinker. It's kind of like the pop music of comedy. Like Britney Spears, you know, there's a point where you can be like, ugh, it's manufactured, it's stupid boy bands or the.
Sure.
But on the other hand, it fucking moves. It gets people on a dance floor for what it is. It captures a moment in time. I feel like
at this point, let's just we really shouldn't use Britney Spears as the pop example anymore because
BTS.
Her life is art.
Oh, she's transcended pop.
She has, in my opinion, transcended pop. She is
well noted. Fair enough.
She's got a what's the word? Gestalt all of her own. Is that am I using that word right? She's got like a momentum that is totally not solely pop. Like that's where it started, but she has infused it with her own example. Shit.
Painfully dated. BTS.
It's Britney, bitch.
Boys group.
Whatever makes you happy, right?
Exactly. And then I got to a point where it's like, it's all just fucking move your booty. You know?
What are you moving your booty to these days? What are you listening to these days? You got all this time, Daniel, now that you're not doing stand up.
That's right.
What music you listening to?
Oh man. I wish I had a cool artist, but it's pretty much just listening to video game soundtrack music.
Yeah, you were I was just about
jazz
to say
versions of Chrono Trigger
really
soundtrack of 90s Super Nintendo RPGs remixed in fun ways, and sometimes not remixed, and sometimes orchestrated. Chrono Trigger. Go listen to it. It's a fantastic soundtrack, even if you've never played the game.
It is really good. I was cooking my eggs, making my breakfast the other day, just like kind of bopping around to what Daniel had going on.
Yeah. My sister, who owns a record store and is like the pulse of music in my life.
So cool.
She'd be very disappointed in me for not naming like, the Cremulon twins and like the Flipstick Complex and Grumplehunks. Like,
okay, now I know you're making them up.
See, you know, of course, yeah. Grumplehunks.
I wasn't sure until that last one.
But there's a tie into music and stuff. You diverted me.
Sorry, I just got curious.
I'm like, I want to ask the question back to you, but also it doesn't
have anything
trying to
do
figure
with
out
what we're talking
if I can relate
about.
it back to comedy somehow, and I don't
we
think.
We just had a little joint and didn't want to talk about this anymore.
So you talked, you ever think of going back? We talked about it.
Every day.
Do you ever see yourself going back in a way where you devote yourself fully to it in that grind, or will it be like, now I do so many things that it will be a part of this cool machine that I build, whether it be a theater, comedy, art, music, whatever, or will I really go back and like walk the comics path?
Well, what does that mean? Walk the comics path? Because
throw yourself into comedy 100%.
Here's why that doesn't appeal to me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know what is at the end of that path. Like, why would you knowingly get on a path if you don't know where it leads? Where does that lead for me? I don't fucking know.
The general comics path leads to specials and etc.
That doesn't really.
It leads to being one of the greats.
Excite me that much.
It leads to being
specials, and then wanted that.
It totally varies about
I've never
movie,
wanted to be
television,
one of the greats,
etc.
I just want to perform in front of people, and I want to have a good time.
Yeah. I think that's almost more important.
So I don't think I'll ever get a manager or an agent because that's not really good for their bottom line.
Right.
You know?
So you'd be happy but unsuccessful or miserable and successful. That's kind of like
I would probably, if I got successful in that way, then I bet I wouldn't be unhappy. I bet you I would be happy being successful too.
In what way? In the traditional way?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I'm going to be happy no matter what.
If you were just like getting booked in cool cities, assuming there's no
I really
natural
want to. Okay,
virus.
so this is what I'd really like to do, Daniel. Here's my career path. In the next year or two, I think it'd be really, really fun to build out a van and then just book a tour or two a year across the Midwest and do that and just go and talk to the people and to tell them about me and here's what I'm up to. What are you guys up to? And just fucking do the thing. Just
because that sounds interesting. And sadly, living in a van is probably one of the only ways to make touring across the country work.
That though. I watch van videos all the time. I love it.
I dreamed about being a road dog comic when I was a young comedian.
Really?
I wanted to. Being in Florida, I wanted to go to a different city every night. I wanted to go to a different crappy hotel every night and live that fun weird. And I got to do little tastes of it, but Yeah, it never.
That doesn't.
Not that I pursued it hard, but I mean, being a road dog was kind of one of the logical paths of comedy 10 or more years
so
ago.
it probably wasn't what you wanted to do, but it was a way that you
I could envision myself.
You were like, yeah, I guess I could go do that, but it wasn't like what called you.
That's how I'd have to make. Right, like,
What
yeah, exactly.
calls you?
This is what people do to make money and gain skill, and so I probably could see myself doing that, and, you know.
I just think it would be fun to go to lots of little towns, and, like, tonight, to have a schedule and to have to, like, be somewhere, but also to get to go and do a lot of things along the way, like, just have the journey be part of the experience a little bit. I think that would be really great.
Right.
I think that it would be fun to take a comedy act and do it in lots of places and just have a better idea of what it is that you're doing and what it is that you're actually putting out and, like, what's up with you, you know?
Yeah, I would love to have that be fun and then until it isn't. I mean, there's so many ways to do it, and now you kind of find your own audience.
Unless I have a big inspiration to write a whole lot more stuff, I don't see myself really doing much more in comedy than at least at the level that I have done previously. Like, unless something really changes.
Yeah.
For me, in, like, the ways in which I'm creating. And that could happen. I don't know. Mm-hmm. We'll find out.
Your expectations seem very, like, well adjusted.
Uh-oh.
Were they always, as far as, you know, when you started, and I'll just tell, like, a real quick anecdote to get into it. Well, when I started comedy in, like, 2007, I got a job at a club called Side Splitters in Tampa, which is a great B club. And for those who don't know, a B club is where mostly the comedians featuring are those on their way up or on their way down.
Yes.
It's a wonderful place to catch a lot of kinds of comedy, but the A comedy clubs are the people who get the biggest names.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I worked lights and sound, and I would start to talk to comedians, and eventually I talked, and it didn't take long to talk to someone who I was like, wow, what do you want to do? Thinking they're going to tell me all these lofty ideals, and they're just like, I just want to make a living, man. I'm just trying to put food on the table, just trying to do okay and get by, and it blew my mind that, like, you don't want to be the next George Carlin? You don't want to be the next huge name? And that was, like, my naivety at the time of being such, like, well, if I'm getting in this, I'm going to be Jimi Hendrix. I'm going to be, you know.
Well, shouldn't you want that for yourself?
Exactly. Where's the line? And,
I
and when
should
is it
probably,
okay
like, up
to,
my expectations.
to start tempering? Right. Are you diminishing your potential, or are you being realistic in a way that's going to lead to a healthier brain?
I guess it doesn't matter as long as you're having a good time. Like, as long as you're having a good time doing
it's a different fit
for
everyone.
Yeah,
But the right fit is important.
Like, if you're gonna, like, beat yourself... Here's what it is. I wouldn't mind being, like A-lister performer of some sort. That would be great, because I could appreciate that, because I want to be appreciated for the thing it is that I'm passionate about. Who doesn't? But, like, honestly, I could be just as happy doing exactly what I'm doing right now. Honestly, I'm feeling pretty good in my life right now. So I'm getting to know myself. That's what I'm doing right now. Getting to know myself. And when I'm feeling better about that, which I am, I'll, set my goals outward again. And then who knows where I'll go? Who knows what I'll do?
That's an interesting way to put it. Like, were you not getting to know yourself earlier in your life?
Well, I just got so swept up, over the last few years with comedy. And what I'm supposed to be doing, and what I need to do, and how I need to do it, and what I need from other people in order for me to reach my goals, and that's what it is like when you start, like, telling yourself the story that other people have control over what you do, what you can or can't do, like, you get stuck. And then you try to appease that person. You would try to, like, do what it is you think you should do. And it really gums up, like, even being able to hear yourself over the noise that you make. Like... So,
right. You develop voice after voice until you have a whole chorus in your head telling you...
You're like, what am I supposed to do?
I
feel so lost. You know? So it's like, how can you hear your own gut?
Right.
All of the best things that I've ever done with my life
that from happening, and how do you clear that out?
Impulse decisions. Everything I've ever done in my life that I can look back at and be like, that is a pivotal fucking linchpin moment, decision, whatever.
Yeah.
Both good and bad. The action that inspired that decision was totally on an impulse. Totally on a fucking like, oh, that seems like the thing to do. Boom. Done.
That's very, what is that? Zen, like, you should make important decisions in no more than 7 breaths kind of a thing. Like,
okay, cool. I like that. And if it takes you longer than that, then it means, like, don't do it.
Right. You've made the decision by overthinking it.
Exactly.
If it was a yes, you would have said yes.
Totally.
Totally. Put.
So,
okay.
So it's like, you know, all of my best decisions have come that way. And when I get so noisy with other expectations and with other things going on and all the shoulds that I have in my head, when I can't hear my own like gut over the shoulds in my head, I know I gotta get quiet. And this is the first time in my life I've really like let myself do it.
You're quieting the shoulds for the first time in a long time?
I'm trying to. They keep popping up. But like...
Should management.
Comedy was a big should for me. So many shoulds.
It's hard to break that at first, right? When you lived so completely in that world for so long.
Honestly, it's only till this quarantine where it, like the guilt has totally, finally, 100% abated. It's like, oh, I know I should be. You know, it's like, oh, I
literally cannot.
You know, I was supposed to have a show this last Saturday, a week ago now. It got canceled, which it should have, of course. And
it's mid-March right now.
Yeah. But, like, I had guilt that whole last week about, like, oh, I know I need to go out to a mic and make sure that I know what I'm doing and I know I'll show up and I'll be so rusty and that'll suck, but like, oh, what are you going to go tell the jokes that you're going to tell on Saturday? Like your old stuff that you know works at this open mic? Like, no, you're not going to do that. So you got to like write new stuff to do the thing. And like, and then I ended up just not going to an open mic.
Yeah.
Because I was like, that's a whole lot of pressure. Better not do it.
Right. There was like so many conditions right there, and on the other side,
they're only conditions that I put on myself. You know, like.
But they're conditions. Yeah, I get it.
I'll know it's the right time to go to an open mic when I don't think about it. When I just say, "Ooh, that sounds like a good idea," and I go.
Yeah, do you think?
I do
because
think.
I would love that. I would love that, but I worry about that in the way that people say, like, you know, you can't always just wait for inspiration. Like if you're writing, sometimes you just gotta sit down and put your hands on the paper or the keyboard.
See, everything I say, I also disagree with.
I'm the same way, because it's this whole thing. A big theme of this podcast is evaluating it. I just don't want to do it.
I don't want to do comedy from a place of have-tos or shouldas or any of that. Like I have to. Yeah. I don't think that works for me. And for some people, well, it's the same thing as like some people need a trainer that's going to yell at them and motivate them that way. I do not work well like that.
That's a turn off for some.
I do not. Like the second you start criticizing me, then I'm just like, well, why would I do it in front of you then? I'll go over here and do it without you. Bye. Right. And like, unless you're going to be constructive, get the fuck out of here with that, you know?
Yeah. How nice does a comedian have to be to themselves? When is it...
How nice does a person need to be to themselves?
Does a comedian have to be less nice than a person does?
No.
To excel at comedy?
No.
To themselves?
No.
Yeah, no.
That can't be true. I think it's the same rules for everyone, for everything you're doing. I don't think there are any exceptions to this human equation.
Do you think it's...
They're like... Right.
I mean, do you think this... I almost want to say comedy's just harder, though.
I think part of what it is that some of the business around comedy like requires a certain personality type and a certain mindset to really excel at that part.
Right.
And those are the people that you see. And so then you think, oh, in order to be funny, I got to be like that. But that's not necessarily true. They just excelled at all the other little pieces that go around the thing that you're trying to do.
What's up with those pieces?
Depends.
What is up with those pieces?
I don't know.
Like, when you get into comedy, you want to be funny, right? Yeah. And you think that just being funny... If I knew,
I guess I'd mastered it by now, but I don't fucking know.
How has it come to be that there's so many other pieces involved? Like, I don't want to come off like I'm whining, but well, you get into comedy to be funny.
Yeah.
And you think, if I'm just funny enough, everything else will fall into place. But you have to be your own manager, your own agent, your own everything, strategy, marketing, until you get to the point where someone else can do that for you, and you don't.
You have to put the product together enough for them to see the package.
They don't, at that point, it's like, what can they do that you can't do?
Well, they can do it at a bigger scale.
They know the connections to the people in the big rooms.
And they can do it at a bigger scale, and now you don't have to. It's the same as any small business. You do it yourself until you grow the company enough to then, be like, okay, now you do this. Oh, and now I don't have to do that? Right. That's exactly how my position at work right now got created. Is the boss had been doing it, and then it got to the point where it's like, well, there's enough of it, and I got enough other stuff I could be doing that it's worth my money to hire someone else to do that stuff. And shit, now I don't have to do any of that grunt work. Fuck yeah, now I don't have to manage myself. I don't have to
and isn't
do all that.
Now you can be a completely different comedian than the one you were before. The one that made you to this place. It's gotta be.
Fuck. What a
it's
mindfuck.
Just such a strange dynamic. By the time you get it, you don't need it, but you get it and you need it and you want it, but it's. Yeah, another one of comedy's strange. Well, the business of comedy, I think, is got to be one of the main ways that people who are truly funny and talented just get sick or washed out, or they don't
between
care
that
to jump
and
through the
drinking
hoops of
or
business.
like substances.
That's another
between business
big
and
part of the pie chart.
It's true.
Those are probably at least 25%.
I definitely, if I'm lacking anything in my comedy career, it's definitely business sense stuff section part.
Right.
I've never been good. And I think maybe it ties into that competitivity, whichever the word is in English. This is my first and only language. Oh, boy.
When people like fighting each other to be good.
It's just you get business and competitivity and all of that it just
and it ain't like
I lack
it ain't
that.
The food industry that's not changing in huge ways. It's like a business that is not only recent, but as far as all business are concerned, it's only existed for a while, and then the way it constantly is changing all the time.
Comedy or entertainment?
Comedy. Just stand-up comedy. Sure. As what it is in its current form.
Well, see, I feel there's not even most stand-up comedians who, if you look at the vast range of their career, how much money do they actually make from just solely stand-up? Right. They go on to be writers, and they go on to be TV personalities and actors and
books, albums,
like that. Yeah, that's something they do. But I wonder if you were to percentile it out. Percentages out.
Yeah, just to
this
see
is some good
the statistics. I always loved wondering about the percentages and the statistics of how many good comedians are kind of in that Steve Martin route where they get good enough at comedy to start movies, and then once they're in the movies, they're like, why would I do comedy anymore?
You're like, I don't need to do that.
He hit a wall in his stuff with the theaters.
Well, once you take your entire audience out for ice cream, what the fuck do you do
Andy
after
Kaufman?
that? How do you follow that? No, that was Steve Martin.
Oh, he did that too? I'm thinking of the milk thing. Andy Kaufman did.
No.
Milk and cookies.
He took the entire audience, and they got into cabs, and they went to an ice cream shop,
awesome.
And they
cleaned them out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting case where I have too much success. What do I do? But just in general, some people do stand up.
That's what you do.
And
you
then
have fun.
Right. Once they get the stand up, the opportunities that being good at stand up can lead you to. I wonder how many, some people are like, finally I can stop doing stand up, and some people are like, no, why would I ever stop doing stand up? That's the core of my being. And anywhere in between those things. It brings me to a solid question I can ask.
Maybe this is selfish of me, but stand-up is absolutely just a step to somewhere else for me. It's not the end-all be-all of my soul. Right. It is one delicious, amazing beautiful chapter in my life. And maybe because my book is more like a choose your own adventure book than a straight read through novel, like maybe I'll come back to this section again. You know, like I'll go back to page 32.
Right.
We can do that. Why not? But like it's not. It is a stepping stone to me, and it should be a stepping stone. I just want to get good at everything. I want to be good at fucking everything.
Right.
I want to have so many. As I sit here in my flight suit, I bought a thrift store flight suit, and it's what I'm wearing for this apocalypse season.
Perfect Paco gear.
But yeah, I just want to like have so many tools in my tool belt. Like I just want to do it all. I want to do everything.
Rather be a jack of all trades.
I do have a history of like starting something and getting really into it and learning so much about it, and then that leading me to something else that like just turns my head and like bursts my insides open, and I'm like, this thing, yes, and then I do that for a few years, and then I move on to a new thing, and that's all right.
Do you think, have you always felt that way about comedy? Could you have, in your first few years of comedy, could you have admitted something like that?
Well, no, not at all, because because it wouldn't have been true then. And B, because I spent the first probably 4 to 5 years of comedy like being like, yeah, I'm doing it, but I'm barely doing it. And like just a few years of being like, no, I'm fucking doing it. And then I was like, this doesn't suit me. Ooh, get it off.
Being an all-in comedian, you tried it on for a while, but it wasn't...
Well, I tried it on energetically. I didn't even like... It's just something that I started thinking about in my own
Talking shit
head.
even about improv people.
Stand up for nothing. Do it. That's how you do it.
You know you're deep in it.
Yeah. No. Improv is fine. It's fine.
They're fun to love and talk shit about.
Yeah.
Just like us.
It's true.
But that's a fun side tangent, and stand-up versus improv is a fun thing.
I don't know. I've been thinking about taking some improv classes.
I'm not against it. I think I would have in Miami when I started if there had been good classes, but there just weren't that I knew of or could find. Yeah, and then eventually I got into the thing where it's like, improv, why can't you just write some shit? You just can't think of anything good enough, so you gotta talk about bananas all the time.
I love bananas.
Just talking shit about your fellow performers and brothers in arms.
I don't know. This is a stepping stone. I can't wait to see what I do next. That's basically it.
That's a cool way to look at it. It's all going to feed into each other.
Because I've had this experience now. Maybe I'll go back to it, and maybe I'll have more. Even when I really dig into stand-up comedy again, I'll have more to bring to it. From having had a hiatus or whatever this is. Yeah. I don't know. I'm just out here having fun.
That's great. It's something I've said to people for a long time is part of doing comedy is not doing comedy. And
well, you've gotten very good at it, Daniel.
I'm the best at that part. Oh man. Yeah. Oh, keeping the mouths closed and dry.
Sorry, this is COVID 420, I swear.
Yeah, and sometimes if you do comedy long enough, you're going to have to take a break for some reason, for some amount of time. And once you're a comedian, are you always a comedian? How long do you not have to do stand-up for before you are not a stand-up comedian and you just become a comedian? I got guilty at one point and I just put that on my profile, so I was like, I'm a comedian, but there's still like my videos and stuff to stand up. I'm like, because that's something I would criticize people for when I was a hardcore stand-up. Is
you're
like,
not a comedian. I don't know.
Better say comedian.
I guess I'm a hobby comedian now. I do it for fun. I'm a hobby life liver. I'm just doing it for fun. I remember, it's just for fun.
Hating on the hobbyist at first because that's like such a high schooly thing, like to do. Oh, you guys aren't serious.
You're not doing it for real.
But it's like, no, they're actually might be doing it for truer reasons than we're doing it.
Because it sounds like fun.
They just want to fucking do it. They're not worried about the end game. They're not worried. I guess they got jobs and lives.
Having all the weight of all the expectations.
A lot of them are
really
shitty dentists.
Getting down to me. It just
expectations, all the other stuff.
and I didn't like it.
Right. I mean, how long before your family and close friends, like, have their expectations adjusted before, like, oh, my friend started comedy, they're going to be the next big thing, before, like, oh, my friend does comedy on a regular level, before, like, oh, I have a friend who's a comedian, you know, it's kind of like they do comedy, and like, I have a friend who's in a band, and I have a friend who's an artist, but they have day jobs.
They expect something of you.
Yeah.
Always.
Is there that voice that's like, oh, I can't wait to show all my friends and exes how successful and awesome I am? And then eventually you have to temper that voice and be like, no, they're not really gonna.
They wouldn't be impressed by this.
I mean, I'm not trying to make them jealous or anything anyway. That's a stupid thing to want, but also it's not gonna happen either. Like,
nah.
Just adjusting, like, those lofty ideals.
I just don't.
That's good. You never had that. And you came from theater, which is cool.
It's none of their business, damn it. I'm living my life, and no matter what I do, I'm going to be awesome and amazing. Right. So they're going to eat it no matter what I do.
So, yeah, I think you had a leg up from being part of the arts already, like, rather than someone who, like, for me, I was not that person, and then stand-up was kind of a surprise to people who knew me. They knew I was funny, but I never expressed that desire to, like, be that guy on stage, front of the class. You were coming from theater. Did you have your own separate journey that kind of mirrored comedy in the way that when you started theater, you thought you would be on Broadway or in movies or things like that, and then you had to kind of wisen and learn the realities of just the art of theater and how it's cool to just be an actor?
Yeah. And really the reason I wanted to become an actor more than anything was because then I wouldn't have to choose what I was when I grew up. That was really how it started. Like, I'll just be all of the things. I'll be an actor, so I'll be all the things.
You'll pretend to be all the things, but you're just an actor.
I don't have to... yeah, I did wise up to that eventually. I was like, oh, this is actually a lot of hard work.
Okay. Because when did you start acting?
Oh, I don't know, 10 or 11.
Yeah.
And then, like, did it all through high school and all that.
And what was your, like, big acting dream that you had to kind of either let go of or just realize was kind of a child's dream or an entry-level dream?
I haven't really let go of it yet.
Right, which is fine, too.
Like, really, the whole dream was just, like, I want to be a performer. And I didn't play any music.
That was just
I never had a musical instrument. I was
I love that.
I'm going to be a performer.
I want to be on stage.
I want to entertain people. I want to be on stage. And it always was a stage in my mind. Like, and having to, like, try to think about, like, filming and being on camera is like a real mind fuck for me. I don't like it so much. Dang. And I should take a class or something. DCPA has some good, like, film classes and stuff.
That's something I might have assumed you would have been over.
Not yet.
All the various
yet.
You've done a ton of things and like.
And I have been filmed multiple times.
Yeah, sketch
I'm just like, I don't like
theater and stand up and pictures. Yeah, that's funny. Do we ever get over those things?
Maybe. We'll find out.
Do people?
Some people do.
Most people? Yeah.
Some people adapt.
That's interesting you really sparked a memory for me about why I loved comedy. Was I got to go on a cruise ship when I was really young, when my parents were still together. So I was like 6 or 7 years old. And one of the nights there was a comedian that I got to go to.
Ooh.
And his name was Dan Bennett. And I remember that
Shout out Dan Bennett.
His whole bit was like, he'd say something stupid by accident, and then he'd go like, "Damn, Bennett!" Like he was saying damn. And like my little 6-year-old brain exploded. And I was like, this is the best thing ever. You know, I found like my secret little dream. And I have looked him up. I haven't found anything since then. But right, just at that moment, I didn't want to be the most famous comedian. I didn't want to be the best comedian. I just wanted to be that guy on stage making people laugh. The person doing something fun and creative and funny.
Yeah.
And I definitely lost the shit out of that somewhere along the way.
Well, maybe you'll find it again.
My
early memory would be Casa Bonita. I was probably like, I want to say 4 years old.
For those who don't know and haven't seen South Park, it is an actual real-life Mexican restaurant themed like a fantastic waterfall paradise of Mexico, where there's cliff divers and a magic cave and like crappy arcade.
Dinosaurs.
It's wonderful. It's a Colorado like staple.
But they have stage divers. So I'm 4 years old. In my little 4-year-old brain, like all the like wooden railings and stuff they have along the water is just like gigantic over my head, and like there's tiki torches and there's Christmas lights everywhere, and there's just like lights and sound and like chlorine and running water. Like
chlorine and refried beans.
It's true. It's true. But we sat up high and we looked down kind of over. It felt like it was like kind of over at the cliff divers, and they did this shootout, and then one of them fell into the water, and like I knew it was all pretend. I knew it was like just for entertainment, but at the same time it was like the most daring, like heart-stopping show I had ever seen. These two men, which I found out later were like 17-year-olds.
Yeah.
19
Usually barely pubescent boys.
Yeah. Oh, but like I was just like, man, what a show.
Yeah.
Like
knocked your little socks off.
Well, yeah, it did. What a show. I just have always wanted to be, I want to put on a show.
You want to make people feel
Let's put on a show. Yeah. It's the best.
That's awesome. As we're rounding up, that feels like we're getting back to kind of the heart of comedy. Like there's so many paths that can wriggle out like the million arms and tentacles that it's easy to get lost and realize we're all kind of headed in the same direction, which is just like we want to make some people laugh.
Capture some joy.
Right.
Reflect it back. Oh. Getting woo-woo.
One thing I so far I'm liking to end the podcast on is kind of going over any like burning regrets we have and being able to soothe those regrets with some perspective.
Ooh,
balm.
Burning regrets.
Like, did I try hard enough? Like that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I guess I wish I hadn't been so caught up in the social aspect of it when I first started.
A huge part.
I drank a lot, and a lot of that was just like what I was going through at the time, and like just where I was at.
Non-comedy related life.
Just where I was at in life. Like it was a strange little time.
Sure.
But that's where people always seem to find comedy.
Right? We're in our 30s now.
Nobody's ever like a well-adjusted person and then starts doing comedy, and I hate to say that, but it's kind of true.
For the most part.
Like people are always like going through something. I mean, they're like, this is a good idea.
I'd say maybe we're probably growing 20% that are like just well-adjusted people with good jobs who are also funny and nice.
That's true. That is true.
It's
like
a thing that's happening, and it's always head-scratching because you assume everyone else is kind of going through some shit.
It's a lovely thing to see. It's really great.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was definitely like going through some shit when I started comedy.
So there's a lot of partying and hanging. See, because that's something I regret too, is I didn't hang enough here in Denver to make those extra good relationships people make and that I had in Miami that you just get from eating shit and hanging out, doing nothing, and partying. There's very few comedians that are funny enough to like not hang at all and be good at hanging at all to like really make it, at least in the local scene.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's some combination of even if you're not that funny on stage and you're like a great hang, there's like a sliding scale where certain people will book you.
I think sliding scale is a great way to put it. Like on all fronts, it just doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't just slide in one direction though. It slides in like
it's 360. A million variables.
Yeah, totally.
Sure, I get that.
Totally.
So when you say you regret, you might have spent too much time getting in the social and the.
And I wasn't paying attention enough to. I think I could have gotten to the core of who I am faster. But maybe then again, maybe I couldn't have.
Right.
Maybe this, where I'm at, I have such appreciation for
where
I am right now. So, like...
You would have, right. You would have got to a shower.
I guess it's...
Maybe.
You know what? Fuck it. I ain't got shit for regrets.
There we go.
I got 0 regrets, Daniel.
There we go.
I'll do it the same again every time.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, that's another question.
Talk to me again in 30 years.
Yeah. We'll do a redo. Reshoot at that point. Reboot. What not to say that if you could go back, would you do it differently? But if you could go back and give yourself advice as a starting comedian.
Ooh, lean in a little more. Be confident.
On stage, off stage. With your material, with your...
Yeah, I guess so. With my material, with what I... you know what? If I had been confident in that, though... If I had been 100% confident, I wouldn't have, like, come through the journey of, like, figuring out why it wasn't fitting and why it wasn't, like, you know, like...
You need to scrutinize yourself.
Yeah, and that helped me in so many personal ways.
Right. Imagine if you could go back and, like, tell yourself to be more confident and then you were just a crappier comedian.
Right? Like, I was just, like, a shithead. Fuck. No, Timmy, no. Wrong. But I guess
actual,
like
just tangible
believe
advice.
in myself a little bit more. Just like don't cut my own legs out from underneath me quite so much because I do have a tendency to do that,
right?
And I know that. So, just a little bit of like
separate the critic from the creator.
A little good self pep talk, like, oh, I mean, okay. Here's a question, Daniel. Would you believe you if you came from the future and you were like, dude, it all fucking turned out great? Like, believe in yourself. It's going great.
Would I believe me?
I think I would. I'm gullible as hell.
Why would I be coming back in time if there wasn't a problem? If everything worked out great, I wouldn't need to go visit myself.
Well, because you need to go back to the past to tell yourself
I have to lie to myself.
No. It's like, you know that if you go back and tell yourself to believe in themselves, that you will succeed. Things would have been different. And it's a paradox.
And then I get back to the future and I'm in my mansion and I'm like, oh my God, I made it. And then I realize my life's empty and no one connects with me anymore and I'm an asshole. I think that movie's been made a few times by now. Yeah.
Which version of
That's
it
the thing
are we
about
living
regrets,
in right now?
Right. Regrets and what ifs they're fun exercises, but only exercises.
But don't you have an appreciation for where you are right now and who you are right now?
I do.
Just a little bit?
No, I do. I'm not coming at it a place from like pain and loss. I can sympathize with you in that I'm growing a lot of different skill sets in the idea that one day I think they'll all tie together in a wonderful way. And I don't know if that's going to be in me creating a work that's like a movie or being a play or a book or some sort of series or who knows what. Maybe
something that hasn't even been invented yet.
Exactly. Or even something straight-laced or whatever. I mean, this year I almost got a marketing job that would have like changed my entire life. And it was this whole weird experience where I was getting ready to do creative marketing for this cool company and then it didn't happen. It was just a bunch of scheduling bullshit and never even happened. And it really shook me up, but it was the thing I needed to kind of like remind me, like, what am I doing? What really am I? And is the path I'm on the path I want to be on?
Yeah, I get a little choice in all this. Yeah. I get some choice in all this.
I should get a little choice in my life.
What are we doing here? What's the story we're telling?
Yeah.
What's the story we're telling?
What is the story?
That's all I want to know. Like, that's really all. I just want my story to be a good story. So I'm going to make it a good story regardless of what I do. So if it's not stand-up, it'll be something else. It'll be something else. There's always going to be something else. I don't know. I find comfort in that thought. So, like, I'll go back to comedy. I like it too much.
It'll always be there.
Yeah. Yeah. Go tell anywhere. Some jokes. Get up on stage.
You can only get so rusty,
if this works. Right? It's true. Like,
I feel like after a certain point, you're not going to just forget how to talk.
Just sand it.
It's a bicycle.
It'll be fine.
Rusty old bike. Yeah.
Oil can.
Damn.
Any more questions?
I think...
Have you grilled me enough, sir?
I think, yeah.
I love interviews.
That was the good cop. Now the bad cop bad interviewer is gonna come in.
Oh no!
Really?
Tell me.
Did you work hard enough, Timmy? Did you
not.
really try?
You know what? I didn't. I didn't work hard enough. I didn't work hard enough.
Can't you?
That's all right. I'm forgiving myself. I'm in the process of forgiving myself for not working hard enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's fine.
I mean, yeah. It's it's hard to look back at yourself, but it's good as long as you don't end up just beating yourself up. And I would hope everyone out there listening and that can sympathize to any of this stuff.
Yeah.
Don't beat yourself up.
Don't beat yourself up.
Be your friend. Don't let yourself talk about yourself like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else you'd like to add, Timmy? This was great. Thank you so much for being
just
with
that
us.
I love you.
I love you back.
Ah.
It's been great living with you and going on comedy journeys in Denver and being able to bounce off each other like that. So.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the podcast. This was a fun thing to talk about. I'm in a pretty good mood right now. I really talked myself into a good mood. This was a great thing to do during the quarantine.
Positivity! And thank you for breaking up what will inevitably be a long string of white males who will probably be...
So many people...
But I'm guessing I'm talking about quitting comedy.
How many more women quit comedy?
I know that I have like a couple I'm holding on to.
Oh, good.
I'm gonna have
Hold on to them.
Just to pepper them in like a wonderful spice of male shame, because this, just statistically, there's going to be a lot of white dudes.
Well, but more men try comedy. That's just what it is. So obviously more men quit.
I dream for the age where I can interview just as many
honestly
failed women as failed men.
Glad to be the first of what will hopefully be many.
Thank you, Timmy.
Yeah.